I'm joined now for analysis by former Democratic Senator from California, Barbara Boxer. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Senator, this is a big one. When you saw these texts, what she says, what she was secretly asking the then outgoing White House to do, what was your reaction?
Well, I looked at it from the lens of someone who served on the Bipartisan Ethics Committee in the Senate for many, many years. I was chair or co-chair for all those years. And I would say this. I thought if Clarence Thomas had been a senator and his wife was texting the president's chief of staff about overturning democracy, Clarence Thomas, if he were a senator, would have been thrown out of the Senate if he knew about it and did not recuse himself from the issue. Researched is that the Supreme Court's the only court that doesn't have an ethics code. So I thought Chief Justice Roberts should immediately ask each justice to abide by the code of ethics that applies to all other judges in the country. And the last point, and I think a very important point, is this, and this is the most controversial point.
Yeah, we're getting a little, I'm only jumping in to say, I'll give you a sec. We're getting a little bit of interference if you want to move the mic or whatnot, and then you keep going.
Okay. Even though in our history, only one Supreme Court justice has been impeached, and that was in 1804. I still think it would be good for someone to introduce articles of impeachment to lay out this abuse of power for everyone to see.
Wow.
Yeah.
So two things here. On a lighter note, people can see how focused you are because you know the dates from the 19th century of history, even as we have our technical difficulties. So you're better at this than me. The second point is more serious, Senator, because I get distracted. The second point is more serious. You believe, and I know you care about this institution a lot, and I know you've approved a lot of judges from the opposing party. This is not about partisanship. You were in the Senate a long time. You're saying, though, your read here is this is a potentially impeachable issue for Justice Thomas.
I believe so. If he knew about this communication. And as someone who's been married for, guess what, 60 years, I can tell you by listening to Ginny Thomas through the emails, I could almost hear her. She was hysterical. And it's hard for me to believe she didn't mention a thing or two about that. Now, the Supreme Court, they're not the supreme being. They're the Supreme Court. They still need to have some rules and regulations. It is stunning to me to recognize that they have none. And if they won't do it, if they won't write their own rules or agree to abide by the code of ethics that other judges do, I think also that the Congress should write those rules because this is outrageous. This is an outrageous abuse of power right here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Supreme Court is subject to federal law, and thus laws can be tightened so that this isn't just a kind of a jump ball for most justices to decide for themselves, which brings us to the other expert that I promised. So the senator stays with us. The legal obligation here is that Supreme Court justices don't really have the enforcement mechanism as the judicial code for other federal judges. There is a federal law that applies, which says any U.S. justice shall disqualify themselves if their spouse has an interest that could be substantially affected by the outcome of the proceeding. So if that applies, what gives? Well, for that, we bring in former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti, who joins Barbara Boxer. Renato, a lot of people look at this and say, if every other judge has to follow this, why not Clarence Thomas? And the answer has to do with the unique nature of the Supreme Court. Explain how it works and what you think.
Sure. Well, first of all, there's no court above the Supreme Court. And there is certainly a body of United States judges who do set rules for the courts. They've set rules, as the senator mentioned, for every court besides the Supreme Court. And so there also, by the way, is no replacement for a Supreme Court justice. So if a Supreme Court justice recuses, they have 8 votes or 7 votes or whatever. And we've had some controversial calls for recusal in the past, some very concerning situations. I remember, for example, when there was calls for Justice Scalia to recuse himself regarding cases involving former Vice President Dick Cheney. And yet I have to say I've never seen a case like this one, and so much understandable public concern. I have to think that the justices are discussing amongst themselves the impact on the court, but yet there's no enforcement mechanism and there's no way for a justice's decision on whether to recuse to be reviewed.
Right. When you say it's unreviewable, it basically means that we refer to that law and the rules, and a lower court judge, if they don't take it upon themselves to recuse, you're saying under the system that is reviewable, which judges are no different than toddlers in bedtime this way. If you know that you might get in trouble, it tends to affect you differently than if you just think you're home alone. And so given that, Renato, is there any solution here for a situation like this where I can't, as a reporter, tell you what's in Justice Thomas's mind, and I don't claim to. But as I laid out in our lead, I can tell you that the evidence of his lone recusal in a case that now we learn his wife has this vulnerability on is suspicious. I mean his lone dissent, pardon me.
Yeah, so the United States Congress could pass a law that requires the United States Supreme Court to adopt an ethics code and a system by which those decisions would be reviewable. I mean, that is one obvious way of handling the situation. Another one, as the senator suggested, would be for Congress to investigate the matter. And if it finds sufficient evidence, they could either threaten or bring an impeachment proceeding. Obviously, as we all know from the Trump impeachments, 2/3 of the Senate is a very difficult bar to meet and to obtain. But nonetheless, frankly, the mere discussion of that, I would think, would get the justices thinking about whether or not the court's integrity has been jeopardized in the public's mind.
Yeah. And then I have a question for both of you, starting with Renato, that is evidentiary in nature. The Thomas's line thus far for years has been she has political rights and free speech rights. True. She can go do what she wants, and that's legal in life. True. That they never discuss any of it. We don't know if that's true. And then it doesn't affect his governing, his job, his rulings. We don't know if that's true. And then there's one more point here. When she goes to the January 6th Stop the Steal rally, Renato, they don't have to discuss it. I mean, they live together. She goes to the rally where the president is. There's security implications. It turns into violence and insurrection. She leaves in advance. It's in the paper. We know about it. At what point does it not matter whether they discuss it? If he knows she was at the Stop the Steal rally, he knows it turned into an insurrection, he knows Congress is investigating it, and oops, he knows whether they discuss it or not. That investigation, if it goes well and gets things from the White House, like, I don't know, Mark Meadows' text chain, it's going to implicate his wife, his family, himself. I'm not trying to build a case here. I got out of that line of work. I'm just asking you the question, Renato, and then Barbara.
Well, first of all, I do think you're right to question and to raise the issue of whether or not you know whether your wife was at the Stop the Steal rally in D.C. Certainly, I would know if my wife had attended. I will say, though, separate and apart from that, the fact that we're on national television talking about it creates the issue irrespective of what happened. The bottom line is that the public's confidence in the court has been called into question, and the mere appearance of an issue should be of a concern to Justice Thomas. And so I do think this warrants a response from the court, and it'll be interesting to see if there is one that's forthcoming.
Senator?
Yes, I think Justice Thomas is very aware of the legacy of the court. And that's why one of the first things I said is he should just go to the justices and say, even though you don't have to, make a statement that you're going to abide by these rules that all other judges have to, and then create perhaps a little subcommittee of the court to write the final rules. But I think, Ari, you made a very important point when you said the only reason Mark Meadows is writing back to Mrs. Thomas, it is pretty obvious, is because of the powerful position her husband holds. So just that alone, this cannot be swept under the rug. This is just heart-stopping stuff. And right away, we know that the court is down to like 50% approval before this. And I know that the Chief Justice in particular really cares about it. So I'd love to see some voluntary action right now by the court if they really care about their legacy.